when they start the college basketball tomorrow, it's going to be different conferences at the table. I don't think that Tony Petitti, who, of course, I worked with for so many years in baseball, I think it's sort of a different story. Wouldn't ACC, I may be wrong here, Chris, but wouldn't it be different conferences at the table when they start dealing with basketball versus football?
Well, the ACC would be more prominently involved, right, Andrew? But it's still the Big Ten.
But you see, the thing I would say is that the way, and this is why, like, the conference commissioners have the most power, is that what they're doing with college sports tomorrow is taking out, it's not lumping Alabama and Vanderbilt together, right? Which are different, even though they're both in the SEC. Alabama is a perennial national championship contender, one of the biggest brands, popular for people around the country to watch. Vanderbilt's an amazing university, hasn't been as good at football, but they're in the same. So when Greg Sankey represents them, he's representing them all. So in your scenario, when you're looking at if they were to do college basketball tomorrow, then you would take North Carolina and Duke out, and whoever the bottom feeders of the ACC are wouldn't be considered as valuable or treated in the same way as UNC and Duke, which I would guess are, if not the two most valuable programs when you look at it from a TV point of view, then at least in the top five of those. And so that's how, that's their also feeling, is that they're not directly involved. Like, the other issue is, like, when you talk about the commissioners, and are they going to want to make a system where there's no SEC and then they're not heading up football? I doubt it, right? And so, like, how do you get to that? I think if you're starting from scratch, what college sports tomorrow lays out makes a lot of sense. The problem is you're not starting from scratch. There's contracts that exist. There are teams with value that are way more than other teams. And so it gets complicated. And the other big thing is the union aspect of it. This system that they're creating or trying to create goes on the assumption that the Players Association, there is a Players Association in college sports, and that you would negotiate with them, which gets around antitrust issues that are just never going to go away until they have a plan, because there's different rules in different states, and it's very complicated. And so that's one thing that is, like, I would say this, like, our story to me, and this is, like, kind of the thing that we were talking about, like, and hopefully it is, and I'm not saying it is or isn't, but this is going to be an issue that people, college football fans and college athletic fans, have to understand, that is going to be with the sport over the next decade. And hopefully this is sort of a primer of, like, a definitive article of, like, what's ahead, and not necessarily that this will happen, but I do think some of these ideas could survive. I don't know if this group will win out, but I do think that this is happening. It's just how and when and timetables that we don't know. But all this stuff in there, it's going to happen. Maybe not the Super League, but there is going to be a change in terms of how players are compensated, which we've already seen, but more official. And there's going to be decisions that have to be made. And I do think that the university presidents from West Virginia, from Syracuse, do have a very good point to say you want to be out in front of the issue to try to create a system that works. Now, the counterpoint is West Virginia and Syracuse, you may want to be in front of it, but it's going to be Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame who are going to be really deciding.
Yeah, Andrew, this is why Nick Saban retired, right? He didn't want to deal with all this.
Yeah, I think in part, yeah, and I think, look, I think there's a lot of factions involved in this.
Jim Harbaugh, too, back in the NFL. Like, why would they want to deal with
he was also in trouble, to be fair.
Maybe.
Every other day.
Maybe. But there is something to that, right?
100%. Like, the system right now is too unwieldy. Not for players. Like, I think I would argue that if a coach can change and coach the next year, I don't see why a player or student athlete can't leave and then go play someplace else. That makes sense. Like, I don't,
right.
If you're really looking at it from the athlete point of view, not from a selfish fan point of view and who we want to root for, and we want our players on our team as if, it is professional sports, and it is in somewhat kind of like professional sports.
Non-athlete students can change colleges and transfer as much as they want. So, yeah.
Exactly. So why should they be different? So that's why, you need something to figure out a system, though, where it makes sense for everybody. And so right now it doesn't. Like, it's just the Wild West. And, this is a lot of things are changing. But in these the other big thing is these court cases that are coming up. And in our reporting, I understood it before, but I really understood it even more of what could happen if they owe all this money. That is what is going to put a big monkey wrench into everything, where solutions are going to have to be decided and come up and
Andrew, it's not a guarantee also that they're going to be unionized. We said that, but I want to make sure that we're clear. While Dartmouth had the right to form a union, there's an appeal that will be heard before the NLRB, and it's going to be years. So I want to make sure that people are clear that this sort of Super League concept, college sports tomorrow is the operative word, and you can read more about it on The Athletic. We've been speaking to Andrew Marchand, who's digging deep in a story that you're going to get to write about this. I would assume you're looking at the next 5 to 8 years, so I hope you have a long-term deal with The Athletic, because I don't for any reason believe that the solution that we're reading about now actually works on every level. So I think they're going to have to do more work, which means you're going to get to write more columns that are fascinating.
I have a 10-year contract.
Perfect. That sounds about right to me. Especially because the president of West Virginia is quoted in your article as saying it's an existential crisis. I like when people drop existential crisis, because they got to figure out how to deal with relegation and promotion.
Yeah, nobody should have a 10-year contract, and I don't either, just to officially.
Oh, I thought we were breaking news. I just got a text from Jason Stark, who's watching the show, saying 10 years for Andy? What is going on here? Do you want us to edit that out? Let's just make it 7 years.
There you go.
We're going to take care of this issue in 7 years.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.